Hi, peeps. Sean Green here, Soccer Coach TV. You know it. Great guest today. We've got Thomas Gronnemark here from Denmark. He is the Liverpool throwing coach. He's introduced this great dimension to Liverpool Football Club. Not only is he Liverpool's throwing coach, he's an author. He's a great father. He's a coach. He is an entrepreneur. He's got a great website and offers different courses online that you can attend. He is, believe it or not, the world record holder of the long throw-in the Guinness Book of Records with 51.33 meters. Is that right, Thomas?
Yeah, it was actually beaten here last fall in 19, but I had the world record for almost 10 years. So
that's amazing. Well, Thomas, listen, thank you for taking the time. I know your time's more important, really important, and you're in great demand. But listen, thank you for taking the time to speak with our audience, speak with our fans. I know they're interested because yesterday I posted something and I got a lot of feedback. People said, can't wait to see this. I first heard about you 10 months ago in an article I was reading online. And I think we just had a little talk. I'm interested in what's different in football. You bring something different in football. I read that Andy Gray made a comment about you when he first heard about you. He said, well, football throwing coach, just put the ball behind your head and throw it in. It just shows to me the ignorance of some of the people, that they don't understand the slight difference that you can make. It can mean a difference between relegation, promotion, going to the Champions League, or win the Champions League. So, Thomas, I'm fascinated about you. Tell me, let's go back a few years and talk about how did you start playing soccer as a young kid? Is that how it all began?
Yeah, I started playing soccer as I think I was 5 years old or so, like many soccer players all around, and yeah, it was fascinating for me to play soccer. When I was 9, 10 years old, I saw my older cousins, Ben and Johnny. They were 6 and 12 years older than me. They could do some fantastic long throw-ins, and I was really fascinated by that. Because, sometimes when you see older cousins or family members or just someone you look up to, it's fantastic. So I was really doing a lot of long throw-in drills myself, so trying to be better. And I developed my throw-in into being a really dangerous weapon. I also was a pretty good football player. I reached the highest youth U19 league in Denmark.
Okay, well, let me guess. I bet you played defense.
No, I actually played striker. Yeah,
striker. Really? I would have took you for a centre back. I would have said you were a centre back.
No, yeah, and actually, I should perhaps have been playing the fullback instead. Then I perhaps could have been a pro, because first of all, I had my really long throw in, and then I was very fast. I have never been losing a running duel in my entire life on a football pitch. But in the mid-90s, I went to athletics because I thought, hey, I couldn't really be a soccer pro, so why not try athletics? So, and already the first year I was training, I was coming on the Danish national team in athletics. I was running 100, 200, 400 meters and relays. And that was really, I had 6 years in the athletics world and several times Danish champions. I was also a part of my club team in 2000 in Paris. We were European champions in the 4x400 meter relay. And I ran the last leg, so that was fantastic for our team. But in 2002, I'd never been better. I just set personal records on 100 and 200 meters. But I had lost my motivation because I've been moving to the western part of Denmark, a small town called Skive, because I met my wife, and sometimes we do something really stupid or weird because we found love. But that's the way it was with me. And suddenly, even though I had success on paper, it was only turning into numbers on a paper. So I had to find a new sport. So I decided to go into the Danish bobsleigh team in 2002. And I know bobsleigh is a really crazy sport. You're driving normally between 130 and 150 kilometers per hour in top speed. And sometimes you crash, of course. So I had 4 years on the Danish bobsleigh team. We were traveling all around Europe, also the States, also Canada. So it was fantastic. And it was in the middle of that bobsleigh period in 2004 where I thought, hey, if I can make a good throw in myself, can't I teach other players to do it? So I went down to my local library to find that book about throw-ins, but there were no books at all. So I used approximately 6 months to do a throwing course myself. I was video analyzing myself, try to see what happens when you're pushing your hip there, or hold the ball there, or what happens with this distance between your feet and so on. And after 6 months, I had a throwing course. So yeah, I was ready to coach a team. I didn't just really know where to start.
So let me ask you a quick question. What did you discover studying it for 6 months about the mechanics of a throw-in? What differentiates somebody who takes tries the hardest to throw it, and somebody, because I've seen people physically who are smaller and thinner and not as strong as bigger athletes who can throw a ball much further. So what is it mechanically in a long throw-in, Thomas, that you could explain to our audience that makes somebody be able to achieve that?
Yeah, I'll say first of all, I felt it myself that okay, suddenly this felt much lighter, and then suddenly the ball went much further. So I'll say in general, when we're talking about how can you throw longer, it's a question about efficiency. The more efficient you throw, the more energy you can put into the ball. That's pretty simple. Right now, of course, back in 2004, it was another thing, but right now I'm having 30 different technical parameters, and then I'm also using video analysis. And most of my players, when they've been training with me for a period, they are improving between 5 and 10 meters, and some up to 15 meters. For example, I had a guy from FC Midtjylland, Andreas Paulsen. He started with 24.25 meters and improved to 37.90, so almost 14 meters improvement. So and he was sold to Borussia Mönchengladbach as an 18-year-old for, like, I think it was $4 million or so. So that was pretty good. But the way I'm doing,
is there an optimum angle of release to get the maximum amount of distance? Is it from a certain point behind your head, or is it the full extension? What is it?
Yeah, I'll say these 30 parameters, I can break them down in 3 steps. First, I'm looking at the run-in. What kind of run-in do you have? And in a run-in, you don't want to jump too much, because if you're jumping too much, then you're like having energy this way, then you're jumping, energy goes this way, and then down again, and then you have to throw. So try to optimize the run-in so it's efficient, and it's different from player to player. So you can't just say, oh, so of course it's very individual. Then I have the second thing, that's the position on the position on at the line, and I can just take my little man here.
Yeah.
So you can say that what's really important when you are, like, let's say we're just stopping the throw-in precisely at the line. It's really important how you place your hip. It's really important the distance between the feet. Also how you hold the ball, position of chest. There's a lot of different things that should be really good. And the thing is that, of course, you can say some general things, but again, it's very individual, because let's just say the distance between the feet, of course, that's individual, both because of the length of the legs, but also because you have different kind of muscle fibers and strengths, and so that's the position on the line that comes after the running. And then the last thing is how you can transfer your energy over the line. And it's really important to transfer the energy over the line, because here you can both get a longer throw in, but you can also, and back to your question around the angle, is that if you want a long throw in as a weapon, then it's really important that it's not only long, but also hard and flat. And that's what I'm working with this transfer of energy. Of course, it has an effect if you can also release at different angles, but the best effect comes from the position you're putting your body in when you're doing the throw in, also with the run in. So that's the 3 main things I'm looking at: the run in, the power position, then the transfer of energy. And a lot of people also, yeah, sorry.
I want to say, honestly, Thomas, it's fascinating to hear you talk about this, how you've broken down the art of the throw-in. I find it incredibly interesting. So you became a master of the technique, okay? How did you then apply that to think about, oh, I'm gonna be a soccer coach, I'm gonna be a throwing coach? What was the epiphany? When did you go to a pro club?
Yeah, the first pro club was in the fall 2004, and of course I could have been starting with an amateur club or youth club, but I had the courage to ask a local Superliga club called Viborg from Denmark and the Danish Superliga, and yeah, they said yes. They scored a lot of goals after throw-in situations, and it was really good. They also had the best placement in the Superliga in the club's history, so everything was like successful this season. The season after, I was going to FC Midtjylland, one of the best clubs, currently number one in Denmark. So that was a step up for me. And the first 3-4 seasons from 2004, I only focused on the long throw-ins, and that was also a success. Scored a lot of goals by it, improved a lot. But then in 2008, I was doing video analysis of long throw-ins from one of my clubs. Then suddenly the club had a normal throw-in in the middle of the pitch, and they lost the ball, and I thought, that was bad. And then they lost the next one, and the next one again. And then I thought, hey, I only thought it was in the amateur clubs and youth clubs that were so bad at the throw-ins all over the pitch. So I started analyzing when do you lose the ball and how do you lose the ball, and how many balls do pro clubs normally lose. And then I found out there in 2008 that most teams have possession under 50% of the occasions when they have a throw-in under pressure, where all the players are marked. So from 2008, I began to make my throw-in philosophy. It's called the long, the fast, and the clever throw-in.
I love it.
And yeah, so in 2008, I was ready to take on the world, because in the start, of course, you can have success with long throw-ins, but it's perhaps only 15 or 20% of every team who can really take it, because you have to be big and strong if you really want to use it. And now I thought, hey, now I can help every team on the planet, the whole world. So I was just ready to take my philosophy into the world. I was 100% sure that every club just wanted my knowledge and philosophy now, but they wouldn't really. They would only have my knowledge around the long throw-ins. So
Right.
it was not until, perhaps you'll ask later, but it was not until July 2008 that my knowledge around the long, fast, and clever throw-ins really had its breakthrough.
Wow. So one day you're sitting at home having a cup of coffee, I imagine, and you get a phone call from your famous coach. Can you tell us about that from club?
Yeah, actually, I wasn't sitting at home. I was I was on a summer trip early July 2018. Where I was together with my family. I have a wife and 2 kids, and we were visiting a chocolate shop. And then I looked at the phone just before we went in, and I could see that there was a +44 number who had been calling. That's the country code from England.
Yeah.
And I thought, hey, it's just a salesman or so. So I listened to the voicemail. And then it was Jürgen Klopp from Liverpool FC on the voicemail. And I was just, I was always dreaming about coaching in the Premier League and also a top club like Liverpool FC.
Yeah.
So I tried to call him back, but he didn't answer. So I went into the chocolate shop together with my family. And when we came back, I thought, hey, better take a ride home to take perhaps the most important call ever in my whole life. And so I was driving the car, my wife sitting beside me, the kids in the back. And then suddenly the phone rang, and my wife picked the phone up and she said, "It's Jürgen." And then I just took the car and I just drove directly to the right into a grass field. So I was standing in the middle of the grass field, picking the phone up, and it was Jürgen Klopp. And he said, yeah, we had a fantastic season in the 17-18 season with a 4th place in the Premier League and a Champions League final. But we were really bad at the throw-ins. We lost the ball almost every time. And I tried to do something about it. We tried to do something on the team, but it didn't work. So then one day he said, I read an article about you in the German newspaper Bild. And that was the reason he called me. So Jürgen Klopp invited me to Melwood, Liverpool's training ground, and the week after. And it should only have been a meeting, but already after the meeting, the day after the meeting, I had the chance to coach 21 Premier League players, all the players who weren't injured or at vacation after World Cup. And a few days after my first training session, I signed a contract with Liverpool FC, and now I've been working with Liverpool FC the last 2 seasons. So it's been like a dream. It's been like an adventure for me. So
and it's well deserved too. And it's just Jurgen Klopp made a quote in one of the papers. He said, "We brought in Thomas and it changed our throwing game completely." And, you know, the season before you got to Liverpool, they were 18th in the league with a possession rate, I don't know, like less than 50%, I think. And they were the third worst team in the EPL. And then the first season you go there, you turn it around to a 66.8 or 66.8% number one in the Premier League. So let me ask you something. Tell me about the first time you sat on the bench or in the stands and Liverpool scored from a throw-in when you were under your tutelage. What did it feel like? Who was it against?
I can't really remember what team it was against, because but I'm often seeing it at home in Denmark. Of course I've been to Anfield and see the matches, but we have scored a lot of goals after throw-in situations, and this season we scored 13 goals after throw-in situations. And in Liverpool it's not the long throw-in we're using, it's from throw-ins all over the pitch. So you know, I'm just proud every time we score a goal. And back to your numbers, just to correct a little bit, you know, Liverpool started in 17-18 season with a possession on 45.4% at throw-ins under pressure. So where all the players are marked. And then 18-19 season, it was 68.4, so 23 percentage points up. So I'm really proud of that. So of course I'm both proud of the possession statistics, all the goals, but I'm also just proud if we are having a throw-in at our own penalty area, we do something specific and then play out of the pressure. It means, just as much to me.
I mean, so, Thomas, if that possession ratio was transferred to the outfield players with the ball at the feet, it'd be totally unacceptable. You know, so why is it acceptable to, you know, look at it, have a mindset where it's okay to lose possession on throw-ins, and it's not. And you brought that, you put that in, under the lens, under the microscope, and I think that was a big thing that I read. And it seems so obvious when you say it, but you don't think about it as a coach when, you know, doing your daily routine. Tell our audience about your philosophy of the quick throw-in, the fast throw-in, and the clever throw-in.
Yeah. First of all, the long throw-in, that's the first part. And as I mentioned before, I'm coaching the players to throw longer, and most players are improving between 5 and 10 meters, some up to 15 meters. It's only technical training. It's not about going in the weight room and gain 10 pounds or so, or 20 pounds of muscles. Some people out there might think that, we are not a long throwing team. Do we have to do long throw-ins? Yes, you have to do, because I'm also doing that in this long throw-in training in Liverpool and Ajax and my other clubs, because the longer throw-in you have, the greater throw-in area you have. And the greater throw-in area you have, the more options you have to throw to a teammate. But it also means that it's harder for the opponents to put you under pressure. And just to make an example from Liverpool, Andy Robertson, or Robo as we call him, he started up with a throw-in of 19 meters before I started with the training of him. And that's very short, very, very short for male football player. It meant that every time Liverpool had a throw-in the left side where he took it, and he's a fullback, so he takes a lot of throw-ins, it was really easy to put Liverpool under pressure because he couldn't throw it very far. But he improved with technical training his throw-in to 27 meters. And even though Andy Robertson will never be one of the world's best at the long throw-in, he improved his throw-in area with more than 500 square meters. So that's a really big area. And so in every club I'm in, I'm coaching the long throw-in, because the longer the players can throw, the greater throwing area they have. And of course, in a few clubs, we are scoring a lot of goals on long throw-ins. For example, FC Midtjylland, where I'm at too, not this season, but the last 4 seasons, we scored 35 goals on long throw-ins, so 8-9 goals per season.
And so, I was thinking probably the perception at first, I'd imagine, from some of the fans will say he's going to change Liverpool into Stoke City, you know, into Stoke City. But you know, it is amazing. Let me ask you a question. How often are you on the field with the Liverpool players? Is it a daily thing, 3 times a week? How often do you take the players to one side? Because I assume you're educating them not just on the technical aspects of the long throw, but also the decision making. When do you throw it quickly? When do you slow it down? All these things.
Yeah.
Is that what you do on the field?
Yeah, and here I can combine the two questions here, because I also had the fast throwing and the clever throwing. I'll combine that with the time used, and I'll say normally in Liverpool and Ajax have a full season contract there. I'm 6 to 7 weeks per season, and I'm normally in a week I'm coaching 2 or 3 training days. Then it's not the whole session. It's perhaps between 20 and 40 minutes per session. So you can do a lot of other things. I'm coaching all the players. And the reason why I'm coaching all the players is because they have to learn my throwing tools. And then I'll go over to what are they learning. It's not only long throwing, but it's also the fast throwing. So fast throwings are, first of all, when the opponents have a throw-in, that we are good at marking fast. But it's not only to mark fast, it's also a lot of around communication, body language, also different agreements. The fast throwing is also to throw the ball fast when we have our own throwing. And some people might think, okay, then we just have to throw it fast all the time. No, sometimes the worst thing you can do is throw it fast, because if you're throwing it into a pressure zone, it's really bad. And then we have the final element of the fast throwing, that's the counter-attack throwing. You can't be offside on the throw-in. So often you can use the back room, let your strikers or attacking midfielders run down there. But of course you can't just run, you have to have patterns and so. And then we have the third part of my throwing philosophy, the clever throwing. And I'm working with 3 different zones on the pitch. And then I'm working with or having 40 to 50 different throwing tools, 10, 12, 15 in each zone. And then I have special assignments for each player on the team, because we have different throw-in superpowers. Some are good at with a first touch, some are good at protecting the ball, some are fast, some are good at creating space. And then on top of all this, the players they're using their own fantasy and creativity. So we have millions of options. So it's not like an American playbook from American football where we only have one option, then we go after that. No, the players are using their experience. So if we try to create space in the near area in front of the thrower, and it can't happen, it can be done because the opponents are marking us, then we know we are releasing space 4, 5 other places around the pitch, and then we know what to do. So that's what I'm working with in Liverpool. So that's in session with different drills with all the players. Sometimes it's 2 groups of 9, then we have a 4 versus 4, and then 1 thrower or 1 secret thrower, and then after that, after 25 minutes, that's the next group. Other times where I'm doing 5 versus 5 on a narrow pitch, so we have a lot of throw-ins and big goals and goalkeepers. Then after 2 minutes we shift the team, or it could also be 11 versus 11 where it's only focused on the throw-ins. So we're having for example 5 throw-ins in each of the 3 zones, and then it's with 100% match intensity. And so most of the time I'm coaching all the players, and most of the times the focus is the fast and clever throw-ins. So yeah, that's what I'm doing.
And can our viewers see any videotapes of you doing sessions online on YouTube, or is there any sessions that you actually put on that are recorded?
No, not at the moment. You can say I'm like in the phase 1, what I'm called the phase 1. At the moment, I'm only sharing my real secrets with the clubs I'm coaching. And of course, I'm talking with you now. I'm talking with journalists. I'm having some free stuff on my YouTube channel. And so, but the real big secrets, that I only share that with my clubs. But when we go in phase 2, when I'm publishing my book about throw-ins, there'll also be online courses and everything. So if you are pretty normal soccer coach coaching at college, or U16 or women, or U9, you'll be able in the future to learn from me that way. So
Thomas, our fans want to know your secrets, my friend. They're dying to know your secrets, our fans here. Hey, I do have a question. See if you can answer it to me. So I'm taking a throw in, okay? And I'm not talking about throwing the ball down the line into space or behind a defender, but throwing it to another player on my team. Would you give coaches any tips on what is the best way for you to throw the ball for that player to receive it? You bounce it off the ground, you throw it chest height, do you throw it to his knee, thigh? What is the most successful or productive way to take a throw in to another player? short throwing. So do you recommend him throwing it so he can bring it down with his chest or his thigh? What do you think?
But in most other occasions, it's the feet you have to go after. A lot of one of the reasons why a lot of balls are lost is because the throw-in goes to the hip or goes to the chest or something like that, and it's really bad. And I think that's one of the first things you can do as a soccer coach is to do some precision exercises with your players in the distance from 5 to 15 meters from the thrower, because there's a really big amount of ball loss of possession in these occasions here. And if I'm asking if I look at the ability as a pro player to throw precise in the short and middle distance throw-ins, it's really low quality. Just look at Premier League or Champions League or Bundesliga or MLS. It's really low quality. When I'm asking the players, how much training have you done in the throw-in position? Then they say, oh no, they didn't really do anything. When I'm asking the coaches, they're saying, oh, they haven't done anything with me, but the quality of the short throw-ins precision is really bad.
Yeah.
But then I say to them, where have they been coaching it? Oh, they don't know, perhaps the academy. Then I go to the academy, and then they say, no, we haven't done it here, but we expect players to be able to make a precise throw-in. They should do that when they are kids. And then I'm going to the coaches from the kids, and they haven't done it either. So we are expecting that professional football players are able to make a precise throw-in without cheating them. No, it's a whole different thing to kick with your feet or throw with your hands. So one of my best advice is to set up a lot of precision drills in a coaching session. You don't have to use 1.5 hours. You can use 15 minutes or 10 or 15 minutes once per week. And if you don't want to do it with all the players, then you can do it with your fullbacks only. But I can only recommend that you put in all your players, because if you see a Liverpool match, it's often 6, 7, or 8 players who are throwing the ball, because it's sometimes better than
it's an area that's so neglected by a lot of coaches, and the rewards can be high. Yeah. This is my advice. This is what I would, if I met Jurgen Klopp tomorrow, I would say, Jurgen, if the score's 0-0 and it's a Champions League game and there's a minute left to go on the clock and you get a throw in, sign Thomas to a pro contract and bring him on the field for the last minute of the game. I know you've fantasized about that. You've fantasized about coming on. I would bring you on for the last minute. We had a deep throw, make a sub, get somebody off, put you on, and boom, back post, get in. We win 1-0. You ever thought about that?
Yeah, of course I've thought about that. But first of all, I'll say that we are not really doing any long throw-ins towards the opponent's goal in Liverpool, even though we have Joe Gomez, who's absolutely world-class, but it's just not Liverpool's playing style. So we are not really using it so much. But I'll also say that, of course, I've been dreaming about playing for Liverpool myself, not because I think it's possible, but sometimes when I'm coaching the players, if we have a exercise where it's 5 against 5 plus 1 thrower, but we're only 10 men, I'm going in the exercise myself. So I'm actually playing with the Liverpool players in training sometimes. So
that's phenomenal.
But of course, I'm not giving it all, because I won't take the self-confidence from the Liverpool players. So
when I was a young coach, my mentor, my friend, knew a player down in Liverpool. This was back in the day when Keegan and all those were playing. And I went down, and these were the days when you could actually walk into the training ground and watch people. So me and my friend were standing there, and it was a pre-season. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, nobody around. And the shed behind us, out comes this old guy, right? And he comes walking up to us, says, "Hey, good morning, gentlemen. How you doing?" And it was Bill Shankly.
Oh,
yeah. So, and he talked for us for about 20 minutes about football. We asked him about his training methods, and I think it was one of the greatest experiences that I've had. Listen, for our viewers, fans out there who I'm sure they're going to be fascinated about your story, and you're going to have a lot of people following you now who are interested in you from SoccerCoachTV. How do they? Can you tell me a little bit about the courses that you offer online? What does it involve?
Yeah, first of all, I'll say I have some old long throwing courses lying somewhere, but I don't really, you know, I'm not really, telling people about that because it'll be much better in the future, I think. But right now, I don't really have my long, fast, and clever throwing courses. They'll be there in the future. So I'll just ask people to be a little bit patient. I think I'll publish my book in a year or so, and then I'll have a lot of fantastic throwing courses, both for players, but especially for soccer coaches themselves. So they can learn, of course, to make the players throw long, but also to use my throw-in tools and the same throw-in tools as Liverpool are using to improve their throw-in retention, throw-in possession, score goals, and from a throw-in situation. So I'll just encourage people to follow me on social media, or take a look at my YouTube channel, or go visit thomasgronnemark.com, and I'll promise that there'll be a lot of good stuff from me in the future. So that's my best advice just at the moment.
Yep, that's thomasgronnemark.com. I've been to the website. It's a great website. Also, just put it in a search bar on Facebook. You can see me on Facebook. Absolutely great, fantastic story. For me, Thomas, I think you're an inspiration for a lot of young coaches who, I hear all the time, these young coaches are trying to get in the professional game, are trying to elevate, their status in terms of a coach. They go to clubs, and sometimes it's the old boys club, who you know, what you know. And the great message I think that you can send to young coaches is that, look, if the job doesn't exist, create one, right? Create a specialized. And I honestly believe that as we go into coaching in the future, there's going to be more special coaches for specialized positions. So I'm going to be inspired by you. I'm going to write to Man City tomorrow, and I'm going to ask him if I could be their kickoff coach. So, but you are an inspiration, my friend. I've really enjoyed talking with you. I know our viewers are excited to watch this interview, but thank you very much. T-shirt I'm digging right now, the Beatles T-shirt. Have you seen the movie yesterday?
No, I haven't, but I have been to the Beatles Museum.
Oh, is that right? Well,
Yeah,
the movie yesterday, I recommend it to you. It's a fantastic story it's about this guy who wakes up one day, gets hit in an accident, and he's a musician, and he plays the Beatles, and nobody's ever heard of the Beatles. The world has never heard of the Beatles, so he knows all these Beatles songs, and I think it's a great story. I've watched it 3 times. But again, Thomas, go to Thomas Gronnemark, YouTube, Facebook. You learn. This is like gold dust that you're hearing today. Gold dust. Thomas, please stay well, my friend. Thank you for being on Soccer Coach TV. My audience out there, my followers out there, thanks again for watching us. Stay tuned. On Saturday, we have Kasim Outlaw, and we're going to talk everything about life, love, and Zen. Thank you.